In this video, I will be going over the improvements, assembly, disassembly, installation, and operation of the AMS Saver Snag Cutter version 5.0. The unit I will be assembling is for the AMS 1, but it is nearly identical to the AMS 2. You just need to make sure that you print the appropriate model for your AMS. This video might get a little bit long, so feel free to use the chapters to skip ahead. Some of the improvements over the previous versions is the new version is thinner, as you can see here. Here's the old version, here's the new version. And that's so that it fits inside the AMS lid, even with very full spools of low density materials like ABS. It is easier to print because many of the pieces have custom made bed adhesion helpers. It is textured so that it has a more finished look. As you can see, they're on here and here. You have texturing. The Teflon tube retention feature is a lot easier to assemble, so you don't have to try twisting it while you're pushing it in. It just slides in. It has two selectable trigger settings. So I'll go over this more later, but this is the first setting. Right here is the second setting. So depending on where you start it from, it has two different trigger levels. And I have included a little jig to help with cutting and assembling the Teflon tubes. The first thing you're going to want to do is let the print cool down completely so that the tabs break off as cleanly as possible. And I'll go through that right now. So all of these tabs here, the support material, these fins need to come off. So they should just break right off. And if you have anything you want to clean up, now would be the time. So maybe just little stray pieces of filament. All right, now we're ready to begin assembly. First, cut the Teflon tube into two separate lengths. We have a 50mm length and a 5mm length. And you're going to want to use this jig and any sort of blade. Use an X-Acto or even one of the filament cutter blades. So you line this up, hold it down, make sure it's all the way bottomed out, and then just cut it off. So there's one length, and now the second length. The next step is to insert the short tube into the bottom of the slide. And an easy way to do that is to take this little short tube, put it into this fixture to hold it, and then push the slide down on it, and that gets it started for you. And now push it all the way in. It should be flush with the bottom of the slide. Now it's time to insert the long tube into the guide and the slide. And for this, you just get it started on either end and then keep it flat. Keep both of them flat so that it keeps that orientation, and then just push them into each other. And it might take a little bit of coaxing. There we go. And you want to make sure that you can see the tip of the Teflon tube there so that it's down all the way, and also right there you can see that it's down all the way. Next we will be assembling the blade into the arm, and the first thing to do is select which arm to use. As you can see, one of the arms is longer than the other. That's because Bamboo Labs has two different blade styles. The style I have is the older version, and it's a lighter color, a lighter gray. The new ones are darker gray. So this one is longer, which means I need this longer arm. So this is pretty straightforward. Grab the blade, stick one pin in to one hole, and then rotate it until it pops into the other hole. Next I will be installing the arm assembly onto the slide assembly. To do this, I like to turn them upside down so that you can see the blade more easily. And what you're going to want to do is slide the slide into the arm, and then put the blade into the slot, and then snap the pin into the arm. And if you want to disassemble this, rotate the arm all the way down and it will pop off. If you want to remove the blade from the arm, it's really difficult to do without breaking it, so you might need to just print a new arm if that's the case. But for now, we will continue with that. Now we will install the cutter assembly onto the body, and this slides into the body as shown. And then as you slide it in, we're gonna align the arm so that it goes into these slots here. So we're gonna push them together and make sure that those stay aligned. Just like that. And now these are together. If you want to disassemble it, you have this little hole here, and all you have to do is push a piece of filament into the hole, and then this whole thing can come apart. And I'll just reassemble it one more time so you can see how that works. And finally, I will attach the lock and the base to the body. This is the lock, just snaps into place. And the body also just snaps into place. It's inserted into one end first, and then rotate it till it locks in. To attach the assembly onto the AMS, you're gonna hook the back piece around the back of the feeder and then latch the front part down on the bottom of the feeder. So first hook the back and then just push down on the top and it snaps into place. Now the hat is for the AMS 1. It's not included on the AMS 2 because they improved the way this button works. But to do this, you first latch it underneath this front part and then snap it back. So push down in the front and then snap it back. To remove the assembly, first take the hat off, and to do that you pull up on the back here and kind of rotate it towards you, and it'll pop off once, but it's still kind of stuck on. You just keep pulling up and it'll come all the way off. And to get the assembly off, you reach down and pop this bottom forward, and then the whole thing will come out. To load filament, first rotate the cutter all the way back so you have access to the bay. And one important thing to note is this lock. If the lock is off, meaning that you're able to trigger the cutter, it doesn't let you rotate this out of the way. And it's designed like that to remind you to lock it whenever you're loading or unloading filament, so that you don't inadvertently trigger it while loading filament. So if it's not coming back, that's the reason. So let's lock it, rotate it all the way back, and now load your filament. If it has a sharp bend in it, you're going to want to straighten that out. This is pretty straight, so it should load up just fine. And thread it through until it goes down into the funnel. And sometimes if you push the funnel forward, it lines it up a little bit better. So we'll do that. Now as it's loading, I want to point out that this is a full spool of ABS, and it is able to rotate it even with the AMS fully closed. That's one of the benefits of having it so thin, is it doesn't get jammed like the other versions of the cutter do. Once you have loaded the spool, you're ready to set your trigger force and unlock it. To set your trigger force, there's two positions that you can set it to. This position that you see right here, where the slide is sticking up past the body, and the bottom of the slide is just about in line with the arm, that's the stiff trigger position. So that will be harder for it to trigger. It will wait longer before it triggers to start cutting. If you want the softer trigger, click it down one notch so that the top of the slide is in line with the top of the body, just like that. And there's another, there's a detent there, so it'll stay put. If the lock is engaged like it is now, that's as far as it can go. It won't allow the blade to actually cut the filament. But when you're actually ready to print and you want it to function, unlock it so that the circle is showing. And I've attached a piece of tape onto the filament so that we can see what it looks like when it does trigger. And there it goes. So it cut, and now it is using the rest of that filament without pulling tape into the AMS or triggering an error. As far as the AMS and the printer knows, you simply ran out of filament. You didn't have a tangle. And if you had another spool, it would, and you have the auto refill set up, it would automatically switch to that next spool without stopping your print. To reset this, so I'll pull that out. To reset this, simply push back up on the slide to whichever trigger position you want, the stiff trigger or the softer trigger. To uninstall the spool, I found the best way is to rotate this backwards until you see that the filament is showing and it's still kind of holding on to it. It doesn't just flop loose. So once it's like that, you can just pull this out, keep a hand on this so that it doesn't unwind at all, and then you can remove the filament and then rotate that back in and you can close the lid.